In recent years, a new wave of celebrities has emerged as if sprouting from the fertile soil of instant fame. Young artists who were once completely invisible to the media began to dominate music charts, international awards, and above all, social media. Within a matter of months, they went from homemade videos to million-dollar contracts, magazine covers, and world tours. The phenomenon, although not unprecedented in the entertainment industry, had never occurred so frequently and with such intensity. What once seemed to be the result of talent and luck now raises doubts among the more attentive. There is a silent pattern that many insist on ignoring. Radical changes in appearance, music videos filled with dark symbolism, lyrics with double meanings, and interviews where something seems to slip through, almost as if a secret were being revealed, but in a coded way. Could we be facing a new kind of contract? A pact adapted to the present time, where the price of fame is sealed not with blood, but with submission to forces that many still prefer to call symbolic? Or has the pact, as old as human fear itself, merely changed clothes and modernized? After all, is the new generation of celebrities truly selling their souls in exchange for global success? Welcome to another night where mysteries never sleep. I'm Midnight, and this is 7 Nights. Before we begin, I'd like to ask for your help. Like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's just one click, but it makes a huge difference in helping YouTube show the videos to more people and allowing me to keep bringing this content to you. I'm counting on you. Let's get into the video. There's something very strange happening in the world of fame. And no, I'm not talking about talent discovered by chance or the luck that some seem to have. I'm talking about something deeper, more systematic. Lately, I've been noticing the rise of completely unknown artists who, within a matter of weeks, appear leading global charts, going on international tours, and signing million-dollar contracts. The problem isn't the success itself, it's the path to it that doesn't make sense. Think about it. How does someone with no visible history, no old videos, no real presence on social media, manage to appear on all platforms, on the radio, in shows, and at festivals within just a few days? It's as if these people were placed there, not by the public's will, but by another force, something operating behind the scenes, deciding who should be seen and who should disappear. One case that caught my attention was a singer who, in less than 3 months, went from a demo track recorded in her bedroom to being nominated for international awards. The video that launched her had a peculiar aesthetic: shadows, mirrors, hooded figures. It looked more like a ritual than a musical performance. And the strangest part? No one talked about it. Everything was treated as conceptual art. But is that really the case? I started looking into similar cases, and I found several. A European rapper with zero musical history who emerged with a global hit. A band of young Americans who had barely rehearsed together and were already touring Asia. Always the same pattern: sudden fame, gigantic contracts, and, in many cases, radical changes in aesthetics, lyrics, and behavior. It's hard not to think there's something behind it. The market tries to explain it as a digital phenomenon. They talk about algorithms, marketing, image strategy. But when you see the same type of symbol repeated across different artists from different parts of the world, it no longer seems like coincidence. It feels scripted, and a script written by someone with a lot of power. I also started noticing how these artists change after their breakthrough. Suddenly they cut their hair, tattoo occult symbols, start wearing clothes that resemble secret orders, wear black, red, drawn eyes, inverted crosses. None of this is addressed by them. When asked, they laugh, deflect, say it's just style. But is it really just that? Maybe you're remembering a case now. An artist who came out of nowhere, and when you tried to learn more about them, you found almost nothing. No old records, no appearances on reality shows or cover videos like used to be common years ago. Just a sudden appearance, as if materialized by the industry itself. Have you seen that happen? There are also the silent backstage players. Agents, managers, producers who don't give interviews, who don't appear on social media, but who are behind these rising names. In many cases, these same managers were also involved in the rise of other similar figures. They're the same faces behind different music miracles. Doesn't that raise suspicions? There's a phrase that always pops up when you dig deep into these cases: the price of fame. Ever heard that? Older artists used to say it with a bitter smile. But maybe the price isn't just emotional. Maybe it's symbolic. Maybe success comes with a contract the public never sees. An anonymous report from 2022 published in independent forums, mention symbolic practices carried out in certain agencies. Silent rituals, promises of secrecy, name changes, surrender of identity. The document had no concrete evidence, but it described behaviors that matched what we had already been observing. Coincidence? I'm not here to say that every new artist made some kind of pact, but I am saying that there's a pattern, and it repeats with frightening frequency. And when something repeats that often, is it really just by chance? What I see is a generation of celebrities who didn't follow the traditional path. They weren't discovered, they were delivered. And when something is delivered that way, so carefully, so ritualistically, it's impossible not to ask, delivered to whom? It doesn't take long for those who observe closely to notice. Something changes in them. As soon as fame arrives, almost as part of the package, their faces transform. It's not just a new outfit or an aesthetic phase. It's a rupture, a sign that what the world once knew no longer exists. What emerges in its place is a new face, carefully molded. The change usually starts subtly. An unusual hair color, exaggerated makeup, a costume that seems out of place with the musical style. But in a short time, these choices begin to follow an almost ritualistic pattern. Dark tones, symbols discreetly sewn into clothing, tattoos that appear in strategic spots. A new image takes over the artist's body, an image that seems to belong to something greater than themselves. Among the more attentive observers, there are those who say this is not just aesthetic. It is the mark of acceptance, a kind of symbolic uniform that everyone wears upon crossing a certain threshold in the industry. They don't say they've changed, but they show it, and those who know where to look understand the message. This is not a matter of simple coincidence. The pattern repeats with frightening frequency. Artists who once had a light, relaxed image suddenly appear wearing dark leather, chains, esoteric accessories. And it doesn't matter the musical genre, whether pop, rap, or indie, the visual code remains. Could it be just a trend or a sign? There are cases where this transition happens almost overnight. A festival performance, a public appearance, and suddenly, the artist no longer resembles the person they were before. The gaze changes, the gesture, the posture, and in many of these moments, the cameras capture symbols that, to most, go unnoticed, but that carry centuries of meaning. The use of icons like eyes within triangles, inverted crosses, golden serpents, and Latin inscriptions are not exactly random. They are part of a silent vocabulary, known to ancient esoteric traditions. A vocabulary that does not need to be explained in order to fulfill its function. It is simply there, visible to those who know how to decipher it. Music videos, photo shoots, and album covers become showcases for this new persona. They are not merely visual products. They are symbolic manifestations. Many of these materials follow compositions that resemble ceremonies, with figures positioned in circles, mirrored poses, occult gestures. Why turn an ordinary song into a theater of shadows? Some famous names even repeat poses and gestures used by other artists who, decades earlier, also went through this process. There is a hidden continuity, as if each new star were another link in an invisible chain, a role that must be performed with precision. And to those watching from the outside, it all seems like artistic boldness. But there are those who say these images are not meant for the general public. They are for the right eyes, like a silent greeting. A symbolic signature that the transition has been made and accepted. Certain tattoos appear with unsettling frequency, a Roman numeral here, an eye there, a stylized deity on the neck, and always right after sudden success. There aren't many explanations. When asked, the artists deflect or answer with empty phrases. But those who observe closely have already understood. They are marks. Marks of passage. The artist's gaze also changes. Many become more serious, more closed off. Some withdraw completely from social media, others delete everything they posted before fame. It's as if the past must be buried, so that this new identity can take up the entire space. As if the old self had been replaced. Some believe these transformations are part of a nonverbal ceremony, a public ritual disguised as creative expression, a symbolic theater marking the beginning of a new cycle. And when you understand this, every video, every outfit, every symbol becomes a clue. A piece of the puzzle. If the image is a portal, what exactly are these new faces invoking? Rituals don't always need candles, chants, and closed rooms. Sometimes they happen in front of everyone, camouflaged in colorful lights, bold choreography, and breathtaking visual effects. The modern stage for certain initiations might be where you least expect it, in music videos. Not backstage, not in temples, but on your phone screen, between one song and another, hidden in plain sight. Those who watch for entertainment rarely notice. But for those who know what to look for, there's an underground narrative that repeats with unsettling precision. Emerging artists, right after achieving their initial success, release videos that follow a similar visual structure, entering dark environments, passing through symbolic portals, interacting with masked or hooded figures, and by the end, a transformation. What does this really represent? One of the most talked about examples involves a young pop star who, in her second music video, appears walking through red corridors, being observed by figures with covered faces. At one point, she passes through a golden curtain, says goodbye to her reflected image, and reappears dancing beneath a geometric structure. All stylized, of course, but were these images really chosen just for aesthetic appeal? There are ancient symbols that have been used for centuries in rites of passage. Portals, mirrors, circles, and flames. These elements appear with alarming frequency in music videos of artists who explode out of nowhere. A hand gesture, a symbol drawn on an object, a formation of dancers that creates hidden shapes when viewed from above. Everything seems rehearsed with a larger purpose. But for whom? The production of these videos, usually directed by a select few in the audiovisual world, is almost as closed off as their scripts. Leaked information indicates that many of these projects are under the direct supervision of executives who rarely appear in the credits. Names associated with record labels involved in other controversies, including old accusations of symbolic manipulation and connections to discrete philosophical movements. When an artist goes through this phase, when the ritualistic video is released, there is always a visible shift afterward. The image, the attitude, even the way they speak in interviews. Some stop using their birth names, others adopt pseudonyms or abbreviate their identities, as if the video were not just a performance, but a closing ceremony, a public death of the former self. Social media also plays a role in this theater. In the days leading up to these releases, profiles are often wiped clean or completely deleted. Posts disappear. Followers comment in confusion. Then everything returns with a new aesthetic, a new color, a new visual narrative. The silence before this kind of transformation seems to be part of the process, like the moment before taking a vow of silence. There are specific choreographies that appear more than once with different artists. Mirrored steps, triangle formations, hands raised in exact directions, eyes covered during certain movements. These details go unnoticed by most, but when analyzed side by side, they form their own language. A kind of silent liturgy. Some believe these music videos function as open rituals, a type of symbolic initiation, staged for the world, but understood only by those who know the code. The stage becomes the altar. The camera lens, the all-seeing eye. The music, the enchantment, not for the audience, but for the entity or force to which the artist is being presented. A curious case involves a British singer who, in the video for his first solo album, walks down a corridor where doors open by themselves, passes by a figure in a white robe, and in the final scene sings surrounded by mirrors that do not reflect his image. The public praised the visuals, but those who study ancient symbolism saw something different, the representation of a surrender, a shedding of the previous identity to assume a new role. The clues are there, scattered among scenes, lyrics, and gestures. They're not explicit, never are, but when connected, they form a story parallel to the song. A story of transition, of access, of consecration, as if each artist, upon reaching a certain level of visibility, had to present their symbolic offering before the cameras. And the most unsettling part is that all of this is done with lights, dances, makeup, and narratives that seem harmless. But those who watch without blinking see. There is something being enacted there, something ancient, something that never ceased to exist. It merely changed its costume. If these videos are doors, what happens to those who walk through them? Words don't always mean what they seem. Sometimes they're disguised, hiding meanings that only reveal themselves when listened to with a different kind of attention. And when you start listening to the songs of this new generation of artists with that care, an inevitable question arises. What are they really singing? Many verses speak of darkness, of voices calling during the night, of pacts made in silence, of transformations that cost the soul. At first glance, it seems like mere metaphor. But metaphors repeated by different artists with different styles and origins start to sound less like coincidence and more like an echo, a programmed reverberation. There's a song released in 2022 that became an immediate hit. On the surface, it was about overcoming the pain of a breakup. But between the stanzas, it hid lines like, "I heard my name in the mist. He promised me the world and gave me the stage. I died in myself to live in another body." Lyrics like these have become common. But common for whom? In discrete forums, scholars of modern occultism have begun cataloging music excerpts that, when read outside the musical context, take the form of invocations. And it's no exaggeration. Repeated phrases, use of archaic words, direct references to sacrifice, offerings, rebirths, all wrapped in soft melodies, like lullabies meant to lull discernment to sleep. Certain famous names use the language of double meanings as a shield. They speak of dancing with fire, hearing voices in the mirror, following the mark of the night. Many of these verses are presented as contemporary poetry, but the public rarely realizes that these same expressions are taken from grimoires, symbolic texts, and rituals of initiatory orders. There are lyrics that speak of selling everything for a minute of light. Others mention a voice that whispers contracts, or a touch that burns and opens doors. The repetition of these themes no longer seems like a creative choice. It seems like a continuous narrative carried out by multiple voices, as if they're all singing different parts of the same hidden song. Curiously, these lyrics are not censored or questioned. On the contrary, they are celebrated, awarded, translated into dozens of languages. There's an almost hypnotic acceptance, perhaps because, in the form of music, the message goes unnoticed. But the lingering question is, who is really listening? A famous producer once said in a closed-door lecture that modern pop music must activate the collective unconscious. The phrase went unnoticed. But this type of language is uncommon in commercial environments. Activate the collective unconscious is a phrase rooted in symbolic psychology and spiritual programming rituals. Why use it? When the same ideas appear across different artists, from different backgrounds, it becomes impossible not to see the pattern. A pattern of enchantment. The melody draws you in, the rhythm wraps around you, but it's the word, spoken in a loop, that imprints something deeper. As if by repeating that verse, the listener also participates in something, without knowing it. The connection between music and ritual is not new. Ancient civilizations used sound as a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. Chants of invocation, hypnotic repetition, intonations that altered states of consciousness. What changes now is the stage and the volume. Where chants were once performed at midnight in isolated places, they're now distributed across digital platforms with millions of plays. The essence of the ritual has remained. Only the setting has changed. What was once restricted is now sung by multitudes. And perhaps this is the most unsettling secret of all. When everyone sings together, no one notices they're repeating the same enchantment. Certain truths are not spoken outright. They slip through. They appear amid awkward laughter, averted gazes, and silences that last a second longer than they should. In interviews, award shows, and public conversations, some celebrities, even without apparent intent, let fragments slip that seem to point to something greater than simple fame. During a press conference in 2019, a newly famous artist was asked what had changed in his life after success. The answer came quickly with a hesitant smile. Everything. Even who I am. But that's part of the deal, right? The audience laughed. The interviewer laughed too. But the artist kept his gaze steady, not laughing back. It seemed like more than a joke. These moments multiply. In talk shows, radio programs, and podcasts, phrases like, "I did what I had to," "I signed my way in," "everything has a price," come up without context, often out of place. In some cases, even the hosts try to smooth things over, change the subject. But for those paying attention, the unease has already been registered. There are video recordings where artists, when teased about selling their soul, respond with forced irony. Some flash a smile that quickly fades. Others say things like, "Everybody does it, you would too." Answers that sound like jokes, a little too much. After all, if it were just a joke, why the need to repeat it so often? Some clips were cut before airing. Others leaked. One international singer, known for staying off social media, let slip in a behind-the-scenes recording. "They don't want me to say this, but once you're in, there's no way back." The line was never officially addressed, but it circulates among those who follow the trails hidden between the lines. On old social media accounts, before fame, some of these artists posted more candid messages, many of which have since been deleted. Messages like, "One day they'll know what I did. It's now or never, even if it costs everything. If it works, you'll understand." Words lost in time, but still resurfacing in screenshots shared by attentive fans. Body language speaks too. In certain interviews, when the names of specific producers or labels are mentioned, there's visible discomfort. Crossed arms, nervous hands, eyes avoiding the camera. The body tries to hide what the mouth cannot say, as if the mere mention of the source of their fame awakens something unwanted. In documentaries about the industry's backstage, there are curious moments where technicians, choreographers, and makeup artists speak about the transformation of certain artists. They use vague terms like, "It was a strange process but necessary," or "After the meeting with them, everything changed." And the most important part, no one asks who they are. Even in award acceptance speeches, unusual things have been heard. A singer, upon receiving a major trophy, said on stage, "Thank you to those who prepared me for this. You know who you are, and you know what this means." The audience applauded without understanding, but a specific group responded with silent glances. Some old interviews are revisited by fans who swear they saw encoded messages, like when an artist drew a triangle in the air with their fingers while answering an innocent question, or when another thanked the force that guides me every night. Small gestures, carefully chosen words, and yet full of weight. Over time, these slips have been treated as fame folklore, something to laugh at and move on from. But is that really the case? When so many artists from different origins and languages slip into the same phrases, are we really just hearing coincidences? The truth, perhaps, is that some want to speak. Others can no longer hold it in. And between smiles and edited cuts, a message keeps trying to escape. After all, what are they trying to tell us? In the past, pacts were described with red ink and lit candles, signed in forests, caves, places hidden from human eyes. But time passed, and with it, the ritual evolved. Today, contracts are still sealed, but the rooms have changed, the rights have been digitized, and the currency is no longer blood, it's influence. The hooded figures have been replaced by executives in tailored suits. Grimoires have given way to 30-page contracts, and the ancient portals have become closed rooms with high-speed Wi-Fi. Nothing needs to look dark anymore. Everything is wrapped in legality, performance, and data. But what is being signed still carries the same weight. Agencies specializing in image management take control from the very first steps. They rewrite behavior, appearance, speech, and even beliefs of the new artist. And if before the pact was made with hidden entities, now it is sealed with institutions that operate with the same ritualistic care. The difference is that the symbols have changed form, but not function. Digital platforms have become the new temple. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. There, artists are launched as highly optimized products. And when they perform well, they are absorbed by structures that promise to maintain fame in exchange for complete alignment. Those who deviate disappear. Those who comply grow. There are cases where influencers with just a few thousand followers literally wake up with millions. Contracts arrive unannounced, with silent demands. Shows are scheduled without background. And behind it all, a curious detail. These artists' profiles begin to follow a pattern. Colors, symbols, repeated phrases and captions, as if following an invisible manual. Record labels, in turn, have become just one arm. Today, larger corporate groups handle every aspect of the public image. And these groups, in many cases, are tied to conglomerates with murky histories, associations with discrete societies, closed-door meetings, decisions that go beyond music or entertainment. There are unconfirmed reports of contracts that include clauses of silence, family distancing, visual submission to a symbolic code. These are agreements that don't mention strange names or entities, but demand absolute commitment to persona construction. And that persona, it seems, is already prepared. The artist simply has to wear it. In hidden internet forums, lists circulate of words and gestures that artists linked to certain agencies are forbidden to use publicly. The reason? Energetic incompatibility with the constructed identity. A pretty phrase, perhaps, but one that conceals an almost ritualistic level of control over behavior. This new form of pact doesn't require candles or Latin invocations, but it demands surrender. Total, And once you're in, you don't get out easily. The contract may not have flames around it, but it burns, silently from the inside out. The public often sees only glamour and growth, but those who look beyond the surface can see there is no freedom there. There is a script, a very carefully drawn path, where success is granted to those who accept its rules. Rules that are not always visible, but they're there. Today, pacts don't need shadows, because the light from the screens is enough of a distraction. And if all this really is just modern marketing, why do so many seem to be paying such a high price? Amid lights, stages, and million-dollar figures, there is a silence no one hears. A wordless pact, a surrender with no return. The new generation of artists may seem free, but their steps follow pre-drawn trails, and their voices, no matter how loud, carry echoes of something ancient. This isn't just about fame. It's about belonging, about aligning with a script where art is only the varnish and the true contract remains invisible. This story is just one piece, and one day, you might see the whole puzzle. If this made you think, subscribe, like the video. It helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share. After all, more voices mean more discoveries.